So we're here talking about this new tool from Birdzi called VISPER, spelled VISPER. It's a strategic personalization tool, and something that we've been thinking about for many years now about how we can help retailers go to market and create that one-to-one marketing to grow shopper value over time.
Yeah, I think what we're really talking about here ultimately is growing both the quality and the financial or economic value of each individual shopper, right? Because they're both important. Many retailers just automatically think about growing sales, and yes, personalization can do that. But I think what we're after here is something even more important. It's certainly growing lifetime value of the customer, but when I speak to quality, we're talking about really a measure of the relationship of that shopper with the retailer, and that's evidenced by how many departments across the store they're shopping, how many categories they're purchasing from, the range of products, private label, all those types of things that really can begin to speak to the quality of that shopper.
Right. So I guess what we're really doing here is leveraging data and teaching a system and machines to understand shoppers at an individual level, and then drive recommendations and strategies to grow that shopper by having a 360-degree view of the shopper, right? Across not just what they bought in the past, but can include things like wellness, it can include things like seasonality, includes similar shoppers, what stage the shopper is in their life cycle with respect to the retailer, all of that put together.
Yes. Yeah. And all that comes together to provide insights. And then it's really moving from insights to, okay, what is the action? And in our case, the action really becomes the strategy. What's the right strategy for each individual customer to grow their quality and grow their value?
So, one of the things that obviously people, as a retailer, you're concerned about is, what does it take to implement? I mean, this seems extremely complicated to do. And, that's something that we've tried to work hard at to simplify this entire execution process. A lot of them are standard data feeds, right? So there's nothing out of the ordinary. We need, standard things like T-log. We like to get at least a minimum of 15 months to get, year-over-year comparisons and behavior of a shopper. Some kind of loyalty file which tells us, hey, what's the household ID, the card number, email, and when do they start shopping, to get us a sense of how long they've been with the store. We need the item hierarchy, what are the UPCs actually sold in the store, and how does the retailer categorize them, maintain that hierarchy. And and maybe stores file, right? So what are the number of stores, geography of the stores, to help us decide how to run these campaigns. That's really it. And I think they're all pretty much vanilla feeds, I would call them. Nothing specialized whatsoever. I think the magic really happens on the Birdzi platform is we are able to take all of that data in and then create these shopper profiles, but then ultimately drives the intelligence behind these VISPER campaigns.
Right. Yes. Yeah. And I think what is really neat here is the way Birdzi is leveraging new tools like AI and machine learning to do this. And then, using those tools to really automate a great deal of this process, which is one of the key things I've talked about, around Retail 4.0, right? Some of the big transformative changes coming to the industry. One of the big ones is using software robots to automate business processes. And I don't think there's any better example of that than what Birdzi is doing here with this.
And an offer recommendation engine very often will look at is a little bit more tactical in its scope, right? It tends to be at the point of contact you happen to be searching for something and it says, hey, here's other items that may be similar to what you're searching for, or other people have searched for. It's really trying to maximize the value of the interaction at that point. Whereas, when you think about it and step back and say, hey, is that sufficient for me? That's great. That's expected now. But I think we're looking at, can we look a little deeper? Can we look a little deeper into the shopper's history? What's their behavior been? And what does it really take to push them up a notch in terms of value to the retailer? And that requires stepping back and looking at a shopper in a more holistic sense than just at the point of interaction.
Yeah,
right.
And I think that's a great call out because, as you say, most other recommendation engines are focused on growing the basket. We're really looking at growing the relationship over time in a very strategic fashion.
Right. And, all these technologies have their place. I mean, you really want to have, with digital transformation, with the increasing digital engagement that's happening, people are expecting, recommendations on products when they search. So they're expecting all of these things. But I think, if you think about, what was the purpose of the weekly ad? Right, for the retailer. Well, the purpose of the weekly ad was to, part of it was to get trips back into the store, right? Get them into the store, walking the aisles, and then hope that drives incremental purchases because you get the shopper back into the store. And so really, VISPER is kind of like an evolution of that, right? It's saying, hey, what does it take for me to get John Smith back into the store and buying more? And how do I grow the value of a shopper instead of designing one single tool with promotions that you throw at everybody? Yes. So I think we've seen improved budget allocations, more strategic, surgical budgets being applied, and some fantastic ROIs.
I think one of the big shifts we're seeing here across the retailers that are using this capability so successfully right now are moving beyond this view of an offer pool funded by the brand manufacturers, right? Which typically, from what we've seen, my experience, may provide a couple few hundred offers, but that really constrains the results and impact of something like this. So I think one of the important shifts that's happening here is that retailers are opening up, if you will, using the entire store product catalog now as an offer pool available to, the Birdzi engine to get the right promotion, the right price to the right customer at the right time. And the retailer finally taking ownership of their marketing and funding to whatever level necessary those discounts or promotional activity to make this happen, and still seeing double-digit ROIs.
Simplicity of the execution of some of these campaigns, very straightforward. Once Birdzi has the data feeds in place and we are creating these shopper profiles, it's a matter of the retailer defining a campaign. When do they want it to run? Who is the target audience? And in many cases, we can even generate the suggested audience to run it for. Birdzi takes care of, curating those offers, doing everything in terms of generating images, offer descriptions, start date, end date, all of that stuff, putting it in an email template, emailing it out, tracking the opens, tracking redemptions, activations, providing a tracker, and providing an ROI. So it's a complete end-to-end service, which is, I think, what a lot of retailers really like about it. Very light touch, but very deep in terms of involvement and actual engagement with the shopper.
We've executed campaigns so far using direct mail, using Catalina prints in lane, digitally, via email or message through an app, and using either direct print coupons to deliver the value to the shopper or digital coupon capabilities to deliver it.
Yeah, completely. And, so we're really channel agnostic. We can deliver across all channels. And the campaigns the first few times, we were pretty stunned with the ROI. How do we actually measure ROI? Because, with numbers, sometimes you can do the magic with the numbers and everything can look really good. But I wanted to make it very clear about how transparent we are with how we measure ROI. And I think it's a very simple yet rigorous method of measuring ROI. So we have a test and control group. So the people who respond to the emails and actually do something with those offers or become part of the test group. The people who either never receive an email or never respond to the email become part of the control group. And we're measuring what's the change in behavior in the promo period versus the prior period between these two groups. And the difference in spending is what we look at as the incremental sales that were generated by the campaign, because all else is the same, right? Everybody else has access to the same weekly ads, the same digital coupons, syndicated offers. The only thing that's really different between the two groups is one group was part of the Whisper campaign, another group was not. And I think, like to your point, Gary, we've seen double-digit, ROIs in terms of incremental sales, and this is including the cost of the campaign plus the markdown cost that's included, right? So we're looking at an overall, total cost of running the campaign double digits. So it's been very exciting.
Looking at the retailers currently using this capability, I think begins to create that roadmap. But, to me, the easy place to start is maybe a monthly campaign focused on, best customers, or let's say the top third of customers based on value and so on. To recognize them, provide additional value to them. And, we know it's been very well established, they in turn are going to reward the retailer with even more business, right? That's where that double-digit ROI comes from. But then I think looking out into the future, there's no constraints to where this goes for the retailer, right? Because by the retailer finally stepping back from thinking they have to have the brands fund everything really takes the shackles off, I think. So retailers can think about leveraging this kind of capability, to power up even a true personalized weekly ad, right? Think about not just taking the few hundred items on sale this week and, here are the 10 most relevant for each customer, but saying, hey, I got 50,000 items in the store. Here are the 10 that are most relevant to each individual customer each week at the price point or discount it's going to take to get that shopping trip, either in the store or online. There's no end to where this goes, right? This can be applied to competitive store openings, different audiences that the retailer wants to focus on. There's no limit to this.
Right. And I think one of the things I really like about this is it's kind of almost stealth, right? It's happening under the covers because this pricing and these promotions are not advertised anywhere. It's being directly communicated with the customer, and every customer is getting unique promotions tailored to their behavior and history and intent. So, so really the retailer can minimize on their print ad and then maybe put a QR code on their weekly ad where a shopper can access their personalized extended weekly ad, so to say, right? I love that. And I think there's just so many ways this can go that can benefit retailers, help them optimize their current advertising and marketing budgets as it applies to, and really from a customer perspective, they really just care about savings. Whether it's savings you get from the weekly ad or digital coupon or any other promotion that you're running, the point is at the end of the day, I have X dollars to spend. I want to save as much of that going into the store, and how can I maximize that and get value, right? So I think Whisper we're thinking about is where it's heading is trying to become this single unified promotional tool for the retailer, where they can communicate strategically to every shopper, right? And
it's when the retailer begins providing this true added savings, added value to their shoppers, their customers, that I think they really take their customer engagement up several more levels, right? It's one thing to provide savings to the shopper from the mass weekly ad or different mass promotions in the store, but it's when that customer feels you know them and you're truly providing them added savings, helping them save money on the products they want to buy, regardless if it's on sale to everyone else or not. That's where I think engagement really kicks in, where this whole notion of really fostering that relationship takes root.
Yeah, and you know, I'd see in another way this can grow is by adding the wellness aspect to it, right? Which is suggesting products not just based on past behavior, but also on your own dietary goals and your health goals, where that's factored into the recommendations that's made to you. Second big area I can see this going is promoting private label, right? To be able, you know, and obviously margins are much bigger on private labels, so being able to leverage that in these strategic personalization campaigns, and you focus more on private labels, seeing how you can capture a bigger market in those categories.
This truly changes how retailers go to market, right? Supermarket retailers have effectively gone to market the same way for the better part of the past 100 years, right? You know, largely driven by what the brand manufacturers want to put on sale and promote each week. This truly changes the game, puts the power in the hands of the retailer now to control their destiny, control their marketing, and really take care of and recognize their individual customers.
I think what we've also found is in running these campaigns, the actual markdown costs that you're actually putting into these campaigns and the cost of the campaign is just minuscule compared to the net outcome. So yes, clearly the shoppers are seeing tremendous value because they're feeling that the retailer gets them, right? Hey, yep, this particular retailer gets my needs. They understand what I'm interested in, and I don't have to go through 500 different things to figure out what I want to buy this week. And being that, so I think being able to create that value in the mind of the shopper that this retailer gets me also grows the brand value. You know, indirectly, right? Because that becomes a differentiator between one retailer where you have to go through 12 pages to figure out what you're interested in versus somebody else who can tell you, hey, here's 12 things, John, that I know you love, and you know, that's going to grow your value, right?
Right. Retailers, when they first start thinking about this, you know, and all of a sudden it dawns on them that they're now funding those markdowns or those discounts, they can be scary, because that has scared retailers for the better part of the last 100 years, right? But what's really neat about this is, you know, retailers that want to move in this direction can begin small, if you will, right? They could test this in a market area, do it in a few stores to understand the impact, understand the costs, understand the ROI, and then go big.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, this is like, you know, it's kind of a test and learn type of thing. You know, a new tool comes out of the market, everybody's excited about it, but you want to start somewhere where you get comfortable with the whole thing, right? Clearly, you know, what our position is at Birdseye is when we engage with the retailer and say, hey, you know, we're willing to run a campaign or two for you guys at no cost. Right? Let's test this out. Let's put this in a small market. Let's find an audience. Let's see what the impact is. Let's look at the reporting, and then figure out how we want to grow this. Yes. And I think it's important. While we're convinced of the value, I think it's very important that retailers get comfortable, because it's a sea change in how you're going to market, right? Yeah. You've been used to doing, you know, hundreds of items on TPR, on markdowns in the store, and customers have kind of maybe even blind to the fact that things are marked down, because, you know, they just go in and buy what they want to buy. And I guess maybe as a marketer, as a retailer, they're thinking that that label is being read by every single customer. But sometimes the personal communication is really what makes a difference. So I think we want to take the approach where, hey, you can try and buy, right? So let's get started small. All right, let's pick a few stores, pick a few thousand shoppers, run a couple of campaigns, measure the ROI, then grow this. And that's one of the things I like about it is like you can wrap this up, see the proof for yourself, and then get comfortable with it. Because we run many campaigns for some retailers, we're gathering history, right? So we know which offers perform well in association with other offers, what times of the year do they perform well. So it's not that each campaign is not running in isolation. It's
Right.
leveraging the history of what's been run before, and it's getting smarter and smarter and smarter. And actually the process gets easier and easier as we go along.
Well,
Right.
yeah, and that's almost the definition of an expert learning system, right? It's learning as it goes, and that's some of the power of these new technologies.
Right. And I think also you talked about transparency, but it's one thing to say that's transparency in a campaign, but it's another thing to be able to look across the arc of time and say, how did we do? Right.
Yes.
And so that's that I think is very useful and maybe relatively new for retailers to see, because again, like we talked about, they're so focused on going from one campaign to the next that they have very little time to step back and see what's going on.
Being able to step back and understand the impact on shoppers over time and how they're growing value and growing their business is very powerful.
In most cases, if a retailer wants to do this, we can do this in a matter of a few weeks, right?
Yeah.
Get up and running and run this campaign, execute, and then provide some results after the campaign is done. So I think in summary, what we're saying is you've got to give this a try, right? So this is just, this is the next level of strategic personalization. And for you to really get an appreciation of whether it's working or not, just go ahead and try a couple of campaigns at your stores, right? We're happy to engage with you guys and walk you through the process and get this rolling. And you'll find that it's really, really simple, low overhead in terms of operational cost, but a high ROI, both in terms of your operational efficiency, what it does for your efficiency, and then the impact, right?
Yeah. No, this is really neat to see. Birdseye is bringing to life, using all these latest technologies, things I dreamed about as a retailer 25 years ago, right? Being able to do. So really exciting to see. And as I said a few minutes ago, in my mind, this is not only transformative, this truly is disruptive in that fundamental shift in retailers now truly owning their marketing and owning their customer relationship.